Cool. So the first one is from Amelia, who's asking, can you give some advice on copywriting original songs?
Yes, and to be honest with you, I could do 5 different shows on copywriting because there is so many sort of slight intricacies, and I'm not a music industry lawyer, so I wouldn't want to go into too much detail. But what this comes down to is, how can you be safe that what you're writing is not going to get nicked, and if it does get nicked, that you have got some say and some comeback in doing it. Now, we live in a very, very different time than we did, and I talk quite a lot about rules and how they were used to be broken, and now they're not so much broken anymore, they're just not there anymore. So back in the day, which was a Wednesday, what you used to do for copyright was you used to have to take your music to either a solicitor or to the bank to actually get to actually get it registered so it was in a place. And there's a lot of what people call poor man copyright, where you can seal it in an envelope and get it timestamped by getting it sort of sent to yourself by recorded delivery, and those things are still a thing that you can do. However, we do live in a different time in 2017, and most of the stuff we do is in some way timestamped. So what this is about, this is about proof, and how much proof you've got. So should it get somewhere, should you write a song and then it gets nicked by Adele or Bruno Mars, and there is some real money into it, then what is it that you can do? And so having your song documented and timestamped is kind of important. And with social media, that is definitely a thing. Now, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but again, this comes down to proof. So when you do get to that final stage and all of a sudden you're sat in court, and it's sort of your word against mine, I wrote the song, no, I wrote the song, no, I wrote the song, then it will come down to, well, hang on, who's got the proof? Who is most likely to have who has written a song? You okay?
Yes, trying to do this lastly.
So who's got the most proof? And so this is a really good example why documenting what you're doing is very, very important. So things like when you're writing songs, when you are recording them on your phone and then posting them to YouTube or posting them to social media, there will be elements of timestamping. Now, it's not bulletproof because it can be erased, it can be deleted, but it is a very, very good start. And so what I'd like to see more bands doing is actually documenting their journey. One thing you can do is, if the song is finished and you don't want to show the world, you can put it on YouTube and actually make it private so that people can't see it, but it's still there and it's still time-stamped. It's a funny subject that we were talking about earlier, because there are certain sort of stipulations and sort of things in place which don't work quite as well. There's always ways around it. But the main thing for me is you want to make sure your songs are copyrighted, but I hate it when I get questions, which I get quite a lot, where band members have fallen out and they've kind of said, well, it's kind of my song and it's my song. One thing you've got to do is you've got to remember that you want to make sure that something's done for the future, but there is no point in spending a lot of time and effort and energy arguing about this stuff if there is no reason to as such. So if the song is just, you're in a band, you've written a song, there's no record deal, there's no publishing deal, there's no royalties as such, you're still charging sort of £3 to £5 to get into a gig, so you're making 30 quid from a gig, then what you're doing is wasting time and energy, and you can spend a lot of time and effort and energy on who wrote what song and who did what. One other part of this is for Amelia, I'm sure she's writing her own songs, but what happens when you do co-writes? And this is why I could spend all day talking about this. What happens when you do co-writes? Who wrote what? And if you wrote the lyrics but someone else wrote the music, how does it work? Is that a 50-50 split? Well, the answer is no. That's not the way it works. It doesn't work as lyrics is 50% and music is 50%. And it also doesn't work with a band that it has to be, in a 4-piece band, 25% each. These are things that you can actually put into play. So you can say, look, I feel like I wrote 80% of the song and you wrote 20% of the song. And if you agree with that, then that's what it is. If you want it to be 50-50 with the lyrics and the music, you can be. But you can make your rules up with this, as long as it's documented and it is somewhere that you can look back on it and say, look, these are the rules. You emailed me. It's got a timestamp on it. You said this, and I can show this to the people that need to know, and they can actually agree with me that you said you would take 20% and I would take 80%. So But for me, I would say just keep it real simple. At the beginning of a band, until you get to the point where this stuff really, really matters, what I would do is I would spend time documenting the songs that you're writing so that you've got them timestamped. And nowadays you can do that, because what used to be the case is it used to actually get recorded onto a cassette, onto your 4-track or your 8-track, and there's no proof because there's no timestamp on a cassette. So therefore it could have been recorded at any time. Nowadays, everything's got a timestamp. Even when you actually are in a recording session with someone else and you can actually record it to your phone and it's got a timestamp on it, it's still an extra thing. So it's not about doing one thing, in my opinion, at this stage. I mean, when you go down the line and you're a published writer, and all of a sudden everything that you do has got musical connotations, there are other ways that there's plenty of things online that you can sign up to, that you can send your music to them, and they'll have like a monthly subscription. There's plenty of things that you can do. But at this stage, for most artists, what I would look to do is I'd look to bulletproof what you do across the line. If I'm writing with someone, I'll want it recorded whilst we're doing it there and then, so you can see that we both took part in the songwriting process. Once it's written, I'd want to sit with an acoustic guitar and I don't want to record it. I want to put it onto YouTube, even if I make that private, so therefore I've got more proof. And the more of these little things that you've got, the easier it is to say, yeah, mate, honestly, you can take me to court because I've got proof here, that this is my song. And so that's the way I would do it. Now, you also need to know, again, more detail, but also you need to know what you can and can't copyright. So, for example, you can copyright lyrics, but it depends how many lyrics. So, for example, you can't copyright a song title because if you think about some of the songs that have been used the most, I think Let It Go has been used the most out of any song title ever. And so you could write a song called Let It Go and Disney can't copyright that song name. However, you can't copyright all the lyrics. So there is a fine line then between pinching a lyric, or pinching an idea, or pinching an entire verse, for example. So there's lots of intricacies on where you draw the line with that kind of stuff. Same thing with music. For example, you can't copyright chords, and you can't really copyright a chord progression as such. But then if it's very intricate with the chord progression along with the style, the sound, the tempo, and so all of a sudden there gets to a breaking point where you just go, well, hang on, that's too close, that's too much to it. So you need to understand those lines. But for the moment, keeping it very, very simple. It's not bulletproof, but you can send your music to yourself recorded delivery. You can put it on YouTube and it will be timestamped. You can record something on your phone and make sure you don't lose your phone or lose the data on your phone. It's just doing lots of little things, in my opinion, to make sure that if someone threatens you with court action, or if Adele releases a song and it goes to #1, you can say, I can prove this is mine without any shadow of a doubt. And if you really, really have got some time and some money, you can do that thing where you can go and find a solicitor and get it registered should you want to.
Would you say as well, like, to save time and sort of energy, as you were saying, like, if you're going to go and do a collab with someone, just discussing it before and be like, if I'm writing the lyrics, could I have 10% of the songwriting? Like,
possibly, yeah. I mean, I think it all depends on how the relationship goes. I mean, the one thing that's very off-putting in business, and also off-putting in general, is when before you've even started doing something, you start discussing the money. It's like, ugh, I was discussing the money side to it, and we've not even created something. So there is this kind of balance between, oh shit, we've just written a #1 hit single, and we haven't discussed anything. But the other 9,999 times of, we're just going to get together, we're going to write something and see what happens. And there should be some kind of moralistic standpoint as well, where if we wrote a song together, we wrote it together.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be this kind of like, well, I'm the more experienced songwriter, so I should. I know that happens, but
normally it's quite easy to get just a negotiation.
I think so, yeah. I think it's nice to just say, look, can we get together, write some songs? We'll just do a 50-50. As soon as someone says 50-50, no one's losing out, no one's gaining it. If they say, well, I'm more experienced songwriter, so I want 60-40, then you can say, okay, or no, or whatever you want to do. But to be honest with you, I tend to go into songwriting, especially for, knowing where Amelia's at with her career. I tend to go into it with a very open, I just want to write songs, I want to get my music out there, and I just want to make sure that I'm safe, just in case I happen to stumble across a winning song, a winning formula, and they get stolen away from me, and I want to be able to prove that it's mine. When it comes to songwriting splits and all that kind of stuff, it can get quite messy.
Yeah.
It can get quite messy. So then it's up to you, and do the right thing. If someone has written more of the song, recognize it, because they have. Don't, try and make things as fair as possible, because relationships in music last. The amount of times that 10 years or 20 years later you'll meet up in some capacity with someone from that period, and you think to yourself, I'm glad we didn't fall out. I'm glad we still have a relationship, because we've been thrown together in some part, and I could easily have done or said something to break this relationship. So try and keep things as fair as possible.
Yeah, in that sense, it's almost better to not take it too seriously at this.
I think
kind
so.
of level
At this
anyway.
stage, yeah, you'll know when it's serious. All of a sudden it's like, when you've got PRS and mechanicals and royalties and all that kind of stuff coming up, it's like this stuff is more serious. And there's probably people out there who are at that stage who probably will register all their songs via their solicitor, or however it's going to work. But at this stage, for a lot of you artists out there, what you're doing there is you're taking the time and energy and effort away from the most important thing, which is, how are you going to get the publishing deal? How are you going to get the hit record? How are you going to make the audience? The rest of it is very simple stuff that you just want to wrap up as you're going, so that you're safe and protected, but not spend too much time. Because when you start arguing with people about songwriting, fuck, it goes on forever. It's horrible.